Good morning, Commissioners, Chief Choi, Mr. Teefank, Madam Secretary, Mr. City Attorney Carlos de la Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioner Suthers, Shields, and Briggs are present, and we have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning. The Police Commission is committed to ensuring equal access to its meetings. It is requested that individuals who require the services of a translator contact the board secretary no later than the day preceding the meeting. Whenever possible, a translator will be provided. Sign language interpreters, assistive listening devices, or other auxiliary aids and/or services may be provided upon request. To ensure availability, you are advised to make your request at least 72 hours prior to the meeting you wish to attend. All public comment will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 total minutes. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. The order of the speakers will be: a speaker in this room will go first, then we will take a speaker watching today's meeting on Zoom. We will alternate between speakers in the room and Zoom for a total of 45 minutes. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board. You are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinions shall be deemed off-topic, and your public comment period will be concluded. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in several ways outlined on the agenda. Message for those attending in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there is a need for the board to carry out public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. While in the boardroom, members of the audience must be seated. Standing is not permitted. At this time, we will move to item number 1, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief Choi.
Good morning, and thank you. Good morning, Commissioner President Suthers, Vice President Shields, Commissioner Briggs and Calanche, Inspector General Smith, City Attorney de la Guerra, and Mr. Teefank. So today I'm going to be discussing significant events from last week, providing a crime update, and discussing our personnel strength. So the first significant event is a categorical use of force. So on March 1st at about 4 p.m., Central Traffic Division officers responded to a radio call of an ambulance traffic at Alameda Street and the 101 freeway. During their investigation, officers ended up arresting a suspect for felony DUI of drugs and being involved in a traffic collision. Suspect sustained injuries to his face and head during the traffic collision. The fire department responded and transported him to Los Angeles General Medical Center for treatment. So while at the hospital, the officers and fire department were moving this person down the hallway in a gurney. This person tried to sit up, get off the gurney. He was ordered to get back on the gurney and stay put, at which time he tried to bite the officer's hands. One of the officers with a closed hand or a fist placed it up against the throat of the subject to push them back down onto the gurney. Suspect continued to try to bite the officer's hand. The officer then used an open palm or open hand and put that palm around the suspect's neck to push the person down on the ground. At that time, a categorical use of force occurred. During the use of force, nobody sustained any injuries other than from what was sustained from the traffic collision. And because of the contact to the neck area and the throat, it was treated as a categorical. Although no officers or the suspect or subject were injured, No other community members were injured as a result of the incident. Because it was considered categorical, force investigation divisions responded and investigated the incident. And that concluded that event. We didn't have any officer-involved shootings this past week. We are currently year-to-date at 5 officer-involved shooting, which is consistent with 5 same time period last year. Last year, this time period, we had 3 fatalities from the 5 officer-involved shootings. This year, we have 1 fatality from the officer-involved shootings. I also want to talk about some of our SWAT responses. The lack of officer-involved shootings also shows that I think we're doing things properly. So I'll share this with you. In the last 30 days, SWAT had a total of 9 call-outs or calls for their response. In one incident, SWAT was canceled because an armed suspect chose to surrender to patrol officers prior to SWAT's arrival. However, in another incident, SWAT's crisis negotiation team, their CNT team, responded. They made contact with an armed subject who was suicidal and mutilating his own body. But after communicating with this suspect for several hours, officers were able to take him into custody with no additional force. They provided the necessary medical treatment, and he survived. SWAT also responded to 2 assault with a deadly weapon suspect calls. They responded to a shots fired in the city limits call. They responded to an attempt murder with a gun call, and also a criminal threats call with a weapon. Each of these suspects were armed and initially refused to surrender. These calls could have escalated to the use of additional force up to lethal force. Patrol officers and SWAT officers utilize their training, their resources to resolve these incidents without using additional force and keeping preservation of life as their guiding principle. I just want to acknowledge and call out their great work that is happening every day out there to prevent ourselves from being involved in unnecessary use of force incidents. So thank you all for your hard work. I think many of you know, on March 1st, I was sworn in as interim chief. I'd like to thank Mayor Bass for taking the time to swear me in. And I'd also like to thank those that attended this event, from the police commission to members of city council, city attorney, personnel from this department, as well as my friends and family. It was a memorable moment for me, and I appreciate everyone's support. Moving on to crime. So for the week ending March 2nd, 2024, comparing to 2023, year-to-date violent crime is up 1.9%, property crime is down 4.9%, and overall Part 1 crime is down 3.5%. There were 4 homicides this week versus 3 homicides the same time period last year. Year-to-date, there have been a total of 51 homicides compared to 43 homicides last year, which is an increase of +8 or 18.6%. There were 26 victims shot for the week versus 17 for the same time period last year. Robberies are up 13.8%, and significantly, the number increase is 177 more robberies this year, year-to-date, than last year. And we're dealing with the same problems with robberies, meaning robberies with firearms are up by 17.2%, and those robberies account for 29% of all the total robberies. And we are seeing challenges in South Bureau and Central Bureau with these type of robberies. For property crimes, burglaries are up 4.3%, while commercial burglaries are down 5.7%. Residential burglaries are up 13.7%. Motor vehicle thefts are up 9.6%. So citywide, Kias, Chevys, and Hyundais make up the vast majority of our stolen vehicles. Chevys obviously are something new. Kias and the Hyundais have always been at the top of our list for the past couple years. Chevys are new, and we're learning that there's a mechanism to clone the key fob and get into these vehicles, and they include the Camaro, Corvette, Silverado, and Tahoes that are being stolen. And we're trying to work with vendors to overcome that tool. Violent crime arrests were up 1.6%. Part 1 crime arrests were up 9.2%, and all arrests were up 15%. Okay, and moving on to our personnel strength. Sworn personnel, as of the last update, is 8,876, so we fell below the 8,900 mark. Civilian personnel staffing level is at 2,636, and our reserve officers are at 443. And this concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Chief, and welcome aboard. I'm going to go to Vice President Shields for comments or questions.
Thank you, President Suthers. And thank you, Chief, for your report and also welcome aboard. I really appreciate you mentioning the number of, kind of SWAT calls and incidences that where officers are really faced on a daily basis with potentially deadly force, yet officers are able to resolve the situation without the use of force. I think oftentimes the only thing that gets reported is the times when use of force is necessary, as opposed to all the times that officers are put in these situations but are able to resolve them, without having to resort to that. And also, I think one instance, a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to visit Hollenbeck during their wellness day, and I was told about a probationary officer who, with her field training officer, was able to respond to a distress call of a juvenile threatening to jump off a bridge. And, because of her training and because of her communication skills, she was really able to kind of leverage that and help avoid, a real tragedy. And I was happy to hear that during that wellness day, but, I feel like as a commission, we don't necessarily hear about all of those great things routinely, and understand we would be here all day if we heard about everything that the officers do on a daily basis. But I do think it is important for us to hear about some of these situations as they happen, so that we also have a full picture of, what the officers are responding to. And I think I would be one of the first people to say it would be ideal if our officers didn't have to respond to these and that mental health crisis folks were able to respond. But oftentimes we hear about how officers are not equipped to respond to these things, but they do have to respond on a daily basis, and they do have training, and they have resulted in positive impacts. So hopefully we can hear more about those throughout your reports to the commission.
Absolutely. I will include those in my future remarks.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Vice President Shields. Commissioner Briggs.
Thank you, President Suthers. Chief Choi, I want to welcome you to the commission. This is your first commission meeting as a chief of police, and I do welcome you. I look forward to working with you in this capacity. I've worked with you for a number of years now, and it has been a joy to work with you, to see your passion for not only the department, but the citizens of Los Angeles, and I look forward to a fruitful partnership with you. I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Briggs. Commissioner Kalanche.
Thank you, President Suthers. Welcome, Chief Choi. So in addition to what Vice President Shields brought up with the SWAT callouts and, these opportunities to not have to involve ourselves in situations that we don't want to and that we resolve in a peaceful manner, I think it's important to also provide us information around deployment of like the mental health teams, Circle, or SMART teams. It could be, once a month or twice a month. I think just the numbers, I think, are really important, especially for the public to know how we're responding to some of these calls and how we are providing the services needed to prevent us from having to use force. And also for the efficacy of these programs for, to lift up, the commitment from the mayor's office and council offices in their support for growing use of these alternative responses. So I'm wondering if either once a month or twice a month, if we could get some sort of stats on these numbers, since we had a great presentation last week. So that could be added to your report.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kalanche. We'll now move on to agenda item number 2, public comment. Madam Secretary, please identify the first speaker.
The first speaker is Jonathan Foster.
Hello, Chief. Good morning. Well, a few comments. There was a suicide of Mr. Fernandez. And on 790 KBC, they were talking about suicide in the Army, and there was a guy who was a trainer or a motivator. And he was talking about suicide, and then the very next day, this person committed suicide too. So it just goes on and on. I'm sorry to hear about it. God bless. And the only thing I can start off with saying is I know you're probably going to be an okay chief and a good chief and a great chief and all that kind of stuff, but there was a George Floyd Valentine that went around. You didn't say anything about this? Nobody told who sent this around. And the thing that seems like to me, it seems like you're a lot like a guy with 2 first names, Kevin Leon, who heard a girl talking about black people were monkeys, and he also didn't come out and say anything about what happened. And we still don't know. We haven't been told in the public. I think that's a bunch of bull crap. Now, last week I talked about the commission, the 23 commissioners and all that kind of stuff, and ripped up on that kind of stuff. And that was here and went over to this page. And if I go back up, right, if I go back up my pages and it goes over to here, I have something else to say. And I wanted to express this to you, is that no one seems to be able to connect what led to the suspect getting into a situation as this, armed robbery. This person's got themselves into a situation of armed robbery. No one seems to be able to connect what led to the suspect getting into this situation. How does a person get into armed robbery? You know, you don't stumble into armed robbery. You've got to think about where you're going. You got to get a gun. You got to get ammo. You've got to go to it. You don't stumble into armed robbery. It's called crime. It's just like not being admitted as evidence in a trial. There's people in this that have a voice here. They want to eliminate that the person, they got a gun and went somewhere to commit a crime called armed robbery. And it's just always put on the LAPD that when they show up, they had to kill the guy. I'm like, well, he thought about committing a crime. He went to commit, or she went to commit armed robbery. That's not something you just stumble into. And then they're upset they killed their family member. Well, why didn't the family do something sooner to avoid the police interaction? But no, it's just put on the LAPD that they're always wrong. They have to kill. Then the other part I've talked about, and then the officer has a criminal charge sometimes when they're out of policy. But we're not talking about somebody that stumbled into something. They committed a crime. They have to think about this stuff. A few things I can't say in 5 seconds, but one of the things, some of them are on cigarette. Some of them have no omega-3 fish oils in the brain. Your brain can't even work without omega-3.
Thank you.
Next, we have Betty Lay.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
Chief's report, agenda items, public comment.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Okay, first off, I'd like to welcome our interim chief, and his report was absolutely excellent. And in public comment, I would definitely like to see him as our permanent chief by getting one within the department instead of nationwide. On agenda items 3C, I totally support the donations. I'm hoping that everything goes great. May everybody stay healthy, stay safe, and I yield the rest of my time.
The next speaker is the Red Chief Hunt.
Speaking on all items, Troy, where's your staff at? Can you raise your hand if you Chief Troy's staff? Are they in attendance to the meeting? You have no staff personnel? No comment. Hey, Sutters, I'm calling for you to resign. In the past 10 years, I had the President Matt Johnson's home phone number. I had Silver Ross's home phone number. I was able to talk to them. They was able to come up with a plan that they had for the police commission with me and things like that. Being able to talk to the people that we the people meeting that this belonged to. I stumbled over some things that you done in the past at these meetings, especially at the Watts meeting, by cutting the people's time in half at the Watts meeting. Number two, I'm having a lot of problems at the South Bureau. I went over there on Monday. There was no Captain 1, there was no Captain 2, and there was no Lieutenant. Nobody knew who was running the whole station. Can somebody tell me what's going on over at the South Bureau? And please report to me at the end of my conversation what's going on and why I can't get in contact with anybody at the South Bureau. And I want to know who your staff is too. Sellers, I gave you my phone number and I've called here for you several times last week, 424-249-0388. And that's lightly. And I'm just saying to you, Matt, all the presidents usually take me out to breakfast or dinner and we sit down and talk about what we're doing as a whole. I sometimes wonder if Troy's going to be a yes man or if he's going to run his own policy. It's been brought to my attention that in 6 months you're going to retire with a salary of $350,000. So I'm retiring 2 chief of police within a matter of 9 months with salaries at $350,000. That's the tax people's money. My other concern is that the $3 billion is not going back into the community. I requested for almost probably 500 social workers to join LAPD as a whole because we actually don't know what we're doing when we go out there and shoot people and stuff like that. So the social workers, this has been our biggest problem, is that the money has not went back into the community. This is one of the reasons why I had to ask Michael Moore to step down because that money wasn't getting back into the community. People that's actually doing the social work and the social progress in the inner city. I need to see your staff.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jamie Cusick.
Hi, all items.
3 minutes.
Okay, so on this week's agenda is the discussion of an officer-involved shooting. The officer is Michael Estrada, who was paid over 130 grand at least in 2022 for serving, quote unquote, serving the public. Shout out to Watch the Watchers for that information. And in the body cam footage that you yourselves released, you can clearly see, Estrada is sprinting down this hallway, and he fires without looking where he's shooting into this apartment. And then you see him jump and pin himself to the wall outside the apartment in the apartment hallway. In reaction to his own gunshot. That's kind of what scares him in this instance. And inside the apartment, you can see that the victim of this shooting, or one of the victims, rather, of this shooting, since there was another person in the apartment at the time, he clearly has his hands in the air. He obviously is not holding a weapon of any kind. And it's really only because Michael Estrada is incompetent at using his service weapon that this man, who, by the way, was only 26 at the time, is still alive, let alone, not injured. And, in the report that was made, that you all released after the fact, you can see that there's this attempt that you all are making to build this case against the victim of this shooting, you know, you're trying to position him as this domestic abuser. And I find this so suspicious because the cops did not come to this address guns out and blazing in response to a domestic violence call. They came there in response to a burglary. And it's completely unclear from this report, by the way, who made that call. And yet, throughout the report, you see that you all report the woman who was in the apartment with Mr. Cervantes at this time. This woman is described relentlessly as, quote unquote, the victim. And it's she actually who has to call out to the officers at one point in the body cam footage. He doesn't have a weapon, I promise. And you can hear the terror and panic in her voice. And there's no way to trust anything about this report, obviously. But I think it's just clear that police are not, you know, even if this had been a domestic violence call, the police would have made everything about it worse. Estrada should be fired. This is authoritarian rule.
The next speaker is Megan.
I just wanted to make sure Choi was listening to that last call because it looked like you were on your phone. In April 2023, LA City Council voted unanimously on a motion instructing the chief legislative analyst to provide a report back within 60 days on the cost and efficacy of the city's notorious anti-camping ordinance, Municipal Code 4118. Recently, someone inside City Hall leaked LASA's portion of the city's report, which confirmed much of what community organizations already know and have been shouting about for years. While people are being criminalized and pushed across district lines, nobody is being housed. It's clear that there's information about LA Municipal Code 4118 and long-awaited report back that is continuing to be withheld. But who is withholding this critical information from the public and why? So I wanted to ask Chief Choi about the LAPD's part of this long overdue report back. As Mayor Bass's budget is set to be released any day, knowing how much LAPD is spending on 4118 enforcement is critical information the public needs to know. Is LAPD withholding it? A California Public Records request has shown that in Skid Row, LAPD's reset team under Sergeant Delano Hutchins has created a database of unhoused people, tracking who they have cited, arrested, and otherwise targeted with 4118 enforcement. Is this information going to be a part of your report? Have you submitted your report to the Chief Legislative Analyst's office already? Is that why this report is being held up? The community has been and will continue to demand the release of this full report back. We have been and will continue to demand an end to the criminalization of houseless people. The community, homeless service providers, and even LASA have all said that outreach should be conducted without LAPD presence. We know that the solution to houselessness is housing, not sweeps, not laws criminalizing people existing in public space, and not politicians on either side of First Street playing politics while 6 unhoused people die every day. I would like to see LAPD step back from all sweeps and 4118 enforcement. Thank you.
Next, we have Steve Rogers.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
The United States of America is a constitutional republic. All lives matter. We're all children of God, from whom we derive our inalienable rights, from God, not from man. I want to congratulate Chief Choi. We hope and pray for your success, because your success will reflect well on the LAPD, and it will be a big step for the LAPD and public safety in the community in general. You are the interim chief, but you are the chief, and we're looking to you to lead, listen, and lead for as long as you're there. LA public safety is in crisis. The LAPD is in crisis. We know that you as chief may be able to make some great changes and inspire the LAPD. There are some course corrections that need to be made. For the time that you're there, be bold, lead, and we will support you. The vast majority of the public in Los Angeles support the police and the rule of law. And we are looking to you to lead us to where we need to go and make it easier for whoever the next chief is. Make some tough decisions, improve morale. I think that's the key. If you improve officer morale, that will have beneficial effects for the officers, for the department, and for the public. That needs to be done. What can you do to improve morale? Talk to the officers, ask them, listen to them. What is it? I personally think that restoring the blue line flag into the lobbies, or let them decide, do they want the flag displayed in the lobby? Do they want it on a flagpole? But it represents officers, past and present, living and deceased. It's symbolic, but it's a strong symbol that you could start off with and empower the LAPD in a symbolic way. Take a poll on morale. What exactly, talk to the police union, get a poll out there, ask the officers, what would improve their morale? I was glad to hear that Commissioner Shields actually went to the Wellness Day at Hollenbeck Division. That's great. One of the callers mentioned the suicide of Officer Fernandez, which I mentioned last week. What's the plan? What can you do to improve morale, reduce suicide? Look out for the officers, who in turn look out for the public. We need, oh, by the way, update the website, lapdonline.org. We are 5 days into March. And March, by the way, is Irish Heritage Month. It is not Black History Month, which it says on the website. Let's salute the Irish for their contributions, all people for all the contributions. Stay safe. God bless.
The next speaker, Donald Harlan.
Hi, I'm Donald Harlan. I'd like a few minutes. You're the new chief of police. I see that the mayor appointed you. And I have concerns about that person that's posing as the mayor, saying that she's Karen Bass and how she achieved her job, and that it seems that she's running with some stolen documents she stole from that office she had over on Wilshire, that she was working as a law clerk. I don't know, I'm not sure who that actually is. But to the powers of the mayor and their influence over LAPD, you guys don't have to take direct orders from the mayor. You have to follow the government process, send your reports back and forth to them and answer them and stuff. But consider that when you work for the mayor. The mayor's not allowed to appoint a chief of police. There's an elector hiring process for that. And the mayor can only send one person to the police commission. Also consider that. She could send a person, and you don't have to adopt her, but she could send somebody. So there's a power structure there, and that's to the powers of the mayor. It came to my attention that the LAPD came under the influence of the FTC or the SEC, that several government agencies around here, that's a situation that you guys are answering to them. And that would only arise from one situation, that the financial crimes are out of control, and fraud and the illegal real estate development's out of control, and they're here to check you guys off on that. That's pretty bad that happened. I have comments on these financial disclosures. All the police commission and the people in the leadership in the command for LAPD all have to have financial disclosures every 2 years, every one of them, updated if there's a large transaction or whatever. And I'm really concerned about the layers. You have to renew. We should have you guys renew it every 2 years, I mean, it should be more, but that's really what you guys can handle. I'm also concerned about the layers of record management systems. Seems that everybody's holding on to their own records management system, and they're just bagging as much as they can. Maybe that needs to be stopped.
Thank you.
Next, we have caller ending 1264.
Hello?
Hi, what items would you like to speak on?
Yeah, I'd like to speak on all of them. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is, I'm from Division 16, Foothill Division, and we have a tendency of lawlessness going on in our community. And I just don't see the police doing things that are protecting us or making us safe. We have people that have come into our residential area, which we pay taxes for, to protect us from people coming in and doing what they want. These people set up businesses on our sidewalks in front of red zones, which are specifically for first responders. And the police drive by and they don't see a problem with it. They just seem to think it's all okay. Well, these small little things create big things. And if you don't take care of the small things, they become bigger. And there's a lot of confusion in the way you guys police, because it's almost like you use the same language, like a double speak, like these nonprofits that criticize you every time on this call. They always say, "Oh, you're criminalizing us." Well, you committed a crime. Yes, we are. And you guys say, "Oh, well, that's not a crime." Well, obviously, it's something wrong, and it needs to be corrected, whether that's through a citation or something else. But it doesn't seem like you are working for us. It's like you're working against us with these organizations that really don't have our best interests at heart. We have a problem with drug cartels in our area. These people have unlimited resources. I see in my community, which is poor and disadvantaged, that they're driving these Porsches, these Ferraris, these McLaren. You see a McLaren driving in our streets, and you're going, who are these people? Where are they coming from? Obviously, they are cartels with unlimited resources, and we are suffering the consequences, and nothing is being done. And so we need to start taking care of the little things so that all the kids seem to know what the rules are, instead of just letting things happen and nobody knows what the rules are. I just don't see the police working in our favor at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have caller Andrew Grabner.
Can I speak on all items?
Okay, 3 minutes.
All right, starting off with the Chiefs reports. Michael Moore was not special. Dominic Choi isn't special either. The Chiefs report should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at every meeting. If the Chiefs report exceeds 3 minutes, we should be able to match whatever amount of time the chief takes. So if we get 3 minutes, the chief gets 3 minutes. If the chief wants to take 5 minutes, we get 5 minutes. If the chief wants to take 20 minutes, we all get 20 minutes. We get the same amount of time the chief gets. So that if he can spend 20 minutes lying about stuff, we can spend 20 minutes telling you the truth about stuff. I sound like the police arrested someone for being in a traffic collision. Have I heard that right? That's really weird. Let's see. Let's move on to but fuck Dominic Choi too. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Fuck the traffic enforcement grant. Cops out of traffic stops. Cops should not be in traffic stops or doing them. We have the supplemental police account report. Oh, you're seizing all the drugs. Why did you seize like 1,300 grams of pot? That's legal. That's been legal for several years. So why are you seizing that? Because it's legal. So you shouldn't be seizing cannabis, pot, weed, whatever you want to call it. You shouldn't be seizing it because it's been legal for several years now. We have item C. This is all the donations. We have a ton of donations today. A backdoor way to try to fund for corporations to try to fund the cops, corporations and your buddies over at the various mysterious police foundations. We don't even know what they are. Um, we have you have donations from like the Century City Mall, um, for um, for your teenage indoctrination program where your cops try to indoctrinate teenagers to be cops while the cops sexually assault the teenage girls in the program. We have lots of money for their weird desert relay race where the cops go run in the desert and then pass out from heat exhaustion because it's a terrible idea to run in the desert. Um, we have let's see, we have a lot of donations, lots of donations for morale because you only get morale with thousands of dollars, isn't that right? So yeah, fuck all of you, fuck them.
The next speaker is Samor Washer Akamash. Akamasher.
Good morning, congratulations, and God bless all of you for working and helping the community. I am one victim of Metrolink. I don't drive because my injury. I suspend my license, and I ask for help from the
Sir,
police.
could you just pull the mic a little bit closer to you? Thank you.
I ask help from I call the police. I ask help from the police. They bring the fire department. The fire department, I got beat up inside their ambulance. Then when I went to the hospital, request the supervisor of LAPD, he came, he not controlling the situation. He make fun of it, and I have a group at USC, over 50 people behind me. I have no idea what's going on. I am mental ill physically. I have a head injury, trauma. I have neck. I have facial compression. I have all my body. I have injury and nerve damage. Instead making the problem easier, the supervisor, he make it worse. Then I have videotape when I was getting out of the ambulance of the fire, when I was strapped. The security of USC hospital, when I was taping, she came and grabbed me from the phone. She wanted to grab the phone. And I said, she's not supposed to touch me. I would like to press charges. Then they said, okay, let's see your phone. I said, you have the camera at USC recording. I understand you saying you not record inside, you will not go in. Then I ask for water. If you see a dog, you will give him a water. They treat me the water, they give it to my mouth and take it away 20, 30 times. Even the doctor of USC hospital of the ER. I met with the council member, Kevin, District 14. I am making poster against Kevin. I am in disability. I receive $1,200 a month from Social Security. I spent $300 just to approve my point with evidence with the corruption going on. His deputy Robert, I've used the office. I tried to meet with the mayor twice. The last time, I believe the gentleman over there, he blocked me from meeting the mayor. I failed in 2019 in Grand and Third. I've been living there since 2013. I was regional manager for Southern California and Las Vegas with Good Humor, Ben & Jerry, Klondike, Magnum, Popsicle ice cream. I am the one who will send to Ralph and every military, whatever they needed. I am the one who was responsible for it. The condition, I don't know, I had narcolepsy, catalepsy. And I fell down in 2019, October 29, and I have the picture. And
So, sir, here's what we're going to do. Chief,
can you give me a couple minutes more? Sure.
He's going to
I
meet
wanna
with
end-
you.
I want to end my statement. Can I get 1 minute, please?
I think the Inspector General's office would also like to meet with you. Mr. Inspector General?
I already met with him. I already spoke with him. He knows about this.
Sir, I'll just mention that
Finish my statement. And
Sir, we have 3 minutes for public comment. These gentlemen are going to meet with you to get your complaint and all the information so we can have it properly investigated. Thank you.
and sir, I just want to say that our office is independent, separate from LAPD, and we want to meet with you, and we'll talk with you outside as well, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Next, we have Philip Tabby.
Good morning. All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you. Today is a new day and an important one for Los Angeles. Congratulations, Chief Choi. Even if it's only for an interim spot, you have the chance to boost morale in the department and in the community. I have no doubt you will complete that mission with great success. Your colleagues have said great things about you, and I was able to watch that 3-minute, 45-second video done by LA This Week, I think back in 2021, that highlighted your accomplishments in the LAPD. Congratulations on becoming the first Korean American to serve as the Los Angeles Police Chief. In your video, you talk about being proud of one's heritage, but also being able to assimilate. And I think that's very important to many Angelenos, as most of our families came from other countries, but worked very hard and advanced because of our accomplishments and how well we did our jobs. I have confidence in your leadership abilities and to not fall for the identity politics that may have hurt more than have helped. Hopefully, you'll be able to leave a legacy behind and also help undo some of the wrong done in the past. Foothill would be extremely happy to get our captain back from 77th, and I know a community who would love their senior lead officer to be returned. Other items we are hopeful for bringing back the Blue Line flag. It means a lot to the community and the officers. Please visit the officers and talk with them one-on-one. I urge this commission to do the same. Maybe you can help recruit officers to the LAPD, do something grand, and make a difference. Remember that we have a crime and drug problem out there. I know it's dubbed as mental health issues, but let's focus on fighting crime. Don't listen to Kalanche. Doesn't she run a nonprofit? Follow the money. God bless our LAPD. God bless Los Angeles. I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, and our next speaker is Michael Coleman.
Okay. Good morning. I'd like to congratulate Chief Choi. And Chief Choi, I'd like to remind you that all power comes from God. And I want to speak on all items. I'm sorry, I should have said that first. On January 20th of 2020, a crime occurred in Los Angeles. A Junipero Serra statue was torn to the ground by a radical mob. And it's a crime that can't be solved, apparently, by LAPD, even though someone like me with no experience on solving crime figured out who the people were. I got video on YouTube. Anyway, I guess that's not a big deal to anybody. So that being said, another issue happened on January 20th. That's odd, of 2024, I'm sorry. And it was an arrest of a victim of an assault named Aaron Levin. It's funny. Aaron Levin was the victim of a violent assault, and he got arrested along with the person that committed the assault. A little odd. Maybe it's not so odd. I mean, considering what's happening in Los Angeles with all the DEI programs, hiring people. I'm wondering if that one's not solved at all, because there's another officer who was involved. I think he was the senior officer on the scene, although I may be incorrect. Tim Tallman out of West Valley. He was the senior guy there, and he was the one that called for the arrest of Aaron, false arrest. Aaron was held for about 4 to 5 hours, and then released and said, well, you weren't really under arrest, even though he was handcuffed for the entire time he was there. Now, I've been held and detained before, and not for 4 hours in handcuffs without an arrest. but that's another story. I'd like to also let all the officers at LAPD know that we know there are good officers out there, and that we know there's also bad ones. So expose the bad ones, and the public will look more kindly on you. That's all I have to say. Thank you. I yield my time.
Mr. President, that was our final speaker.
Thank you. That will conclude the public comment period. We will now go on to agenda item number 3, consent agenda items. We have items 3A through C. I have some questions, comments on 3A. Are there any questions or comments on B and C? Commissioner Briggs?
No.
Commissioner Kalanche? No. Vice President Shields? No. With that, I move that we recommend the board action to approve items 3B and C. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Returning to item 3A, Department's report relative to the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program grant. And I believe we have Commander Valenzuela.
Yes, he's on Zoom.
Okay, great. Is Commander available?
Commander Valenzuela, you're on.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Commander. Just a question and a request.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to know, what's the deployment plan for the 3 miles of the 28 miles of PCH between the city of Santa Monica and the LA Ventura County that's going to be funded for $280,000? I understand that this was largely generated by the very tragic accident recently by the Pepperdine students that were killed in an accident not too long ago. But again, that's 3 miles, and I just wanted to know, if you can't say today, at least let us know what that deployment's going to look like for those 3 miles of stretch of 28 that we're going to be covering.
Yes, President Suthers, this came as a request to us. So we will use these funds. We'll have 1 sergeant and 2 police officers during peak hours. I believe it's Saturday and Sunday from about noon to 22 hours, 10 p.m. Most weekends that we can fill them, assuming that we're going to fill each weekend. So we'll have a sergeant and 2 police officers out there working those 3 miles. I'm sure prior to getting out there, we will survey and look at which areas in particular over those 3 miles are most concerning. I don't believe we've done that yet. So I don't anticipate us having 2 officers roaming up and down 3 miles worth of PCH, but we'll be selective and we'll have a critical eye on where we should be and what the most dangerous portions of those 3 miles may be.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other is just a request. If you go to section 2B of your report, where it identifies the objectives, and those objectives are very aggressive, and I'd love to see that we're able to meet most of them. But I do notice that we have a quarterly performance report, a QPR, that's due in January, April, July, and October. So when those reports are completed, I'd like to see that those reports are also presented to the commission, because it's a very important initiative. I'd like to see how the objectives are being met or not, and how well we may be doing each quarter as this program rolls out.
Of course, sir. Sorry, just taking notes, sir, so I don't miss anything.
Okay. All right, thank you, Commander. That's all I have. Are there any other comments or questions from the other commissioners?
I have a quick question.
Commissioner Kalanche.
Thank you. Since this is targeting is it targeting PCH that we don't have any oversight over PCH? Those 3 miles. Okay. So is there a similar project or funding for those areas that are not part of the city of LA?
Yes, my understanding is Santa Monica, Malibu with the sheriff's department, something like a 28-mile stretch. Those other 25 miles will be managed and dealt with in what I imagine is a similar fashion by those other departments.
And we're coordinating efforts?
We have not yet. I don't know that we've had any conversations with either Santa Monica or the sheriffs, but I would anticipate that going forward.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kalanche. Commissioner Briggs? Thank you, sir. With that, I move that we recommend for board action to approve the department's report and transmit to the mayor and city council. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved in second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 4, regular agenda items. 4A, department's verbal presentation and discussion relative to the records management system. I have Commander Valenzuela. Randy Goddard, Commander Goddard, Captain O'Connor, no, Captain O'Connor. Okay, great. Good morning. Thank you, everyone.
Good morning, Commissioners. Deputy Chief John McMahon, I'm the department's Chief Information Officer overseeing Information Technology Bureau. What we're here today is to present you with a verbal update on the transition to the department's move to a new electronic digital records management system and our transition to changing our crime reporting process from the Uniform Crime Reporting Standard to a national incident-based reporting standard, a standard that was implemented by the Federal Bureau of Investigation to ensure that all the country's nationwide law enforcement was to report using this standard in January of 2021. Because so many organizations struggled to make the transition, that deadline had been extended. The department was one of those organizations that was struggling with it, but we're on track now. This afternoon at 2 o'clock, we'll have our final go live meeting to determine whether it's green lights to transition to the move to the new records management system. We're slated to initiate the process. It's going to be incremental. We're going to start with Operations South Bureau starting on Thursday. Absent any unforeseen circumstances, that final decision will be made at 2 o'clock this afternoon. I expect it, and I'll go. With respect to some of the finer points, the details of what the RMS is, it's a huge transformational change with the organization. The change management aspect and getting to build adoption has been formidable. It will continue to be formidable. This change is very significant on the basic core function of what our police officers do on a day-to-day basis. Some will accept it with wide open arms. Some are going to go kicking and screaming. But one thing that needs to be known by everybody, and Commander Goddard will get into the details of it, is this is a transition to a system that we have no choice on. Commander Goddard is going to get into some of the details why that is. Not only is it necessary from a department standpoint, but eventually we have to get into compliance with what the federal government wants in terms of crime reporting. So without further ado from me, Commander Goddard's prepared a rather detailed presentation to get into the finer points of RMS and NIVERS.
Thank you, Chief. Commander?
Good morning. Again, my name is Commander Randy Goddard. I'm the Assistant Commanding Officer, Information Technology Bureau. Like Chief McMahon mentioned, we're here to provide you with an update on the department's strategic plan for our technology modernization with the upcoming phased rollout of the new records management system, also known as RMS. So I'll refer to that as RMS. Starting this Thursday, March 7th, within Operations Central Bureau will be our first bureau that will roll that out. Although I provided a high-level update to this commission this past November on the RMS project, I want to provide this commission, members of the public, and the men and women of this department, not only an understanding of what is going to happen on March 7th in 2 days with our first RMS rollout, but why it is critical to the continuity of department operations. First, I want to provide a much-deserved public thank you to the RMS team, which consists of sworn and civilian department members, our project managers, our subject matter experts from all over the organization, and our vendor. All of them have worked tirelessly over the last year to get us to a point where we can launch the first phase of RMS in 2 days. This organization has attempted to launch an RMS for more than 10 years. And without the members of this entire team working long hours, in some cases without days off, we would not be where we are today. This morning I will speak about where we've been and where we are going with the launch of our new RMS starting this Thursday. This launch is absolutely critical first step to getting off our legacy computer systems and beginning the process of becoming compliant with the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Uniform Crime Reporting National Incident-Based Reporting Standard. I hope
I also hope this presentation helps further the human change management aspect of deploying the largest and most significant technology project in the department's 155-year history. To be candid, no matter how much preparation we have completed, there will always be unknowns that we will not be able to identify until we go live. And that has created anxiety within the organization. The human change management aspect of this project is significant in supporting the technology. By this commission's and the Chief of Police's leadership and support of the department's strategic plan to modernize technology with the new RMS, I believe it will help reduce the anxiety the organization is feeling with this historic change. So we'll start where we are and where we've been. For the last 40 years, with our reliance on a 1970s era mainframe and legacy computer system. That's where we are. Legacy system are applications on our mainframe that are end of life and are no longer supported. Our mainframe is difficult to maintain and incredibly expensive, costing the department millions of dollars annually. Our legacy applications are housed on the mainframe, maintained in Sacramento by the California Department of Technology. The city does not have the resources to maintain our mainframe here within the city's infrastructure. There are 5 mainframe applications that are critical to department operations. The first one is the Network Communication System, what we call NEX. This system gives us the ability to access federal, state, and county databases, our criminal histories, our DMV, our county warrants. That's the switch that gives us that ability. The second one, our Consolidated Crime Analysis Database, what we call CCAD. This is where the officers take a pen and paper, pencil report, and our area records personnel goes into this 30, 40-year-old system and manually enters the data. That's the CCAD. That's what CompStat relies upon to get all of our crime data. Detective Case Tracking System. This is where the detectives go in and manage their cases, close out their cases, put their detective notes. Number 4, Automated Property Information Management System, or what we call APIMS. This is a system where all of our property that is booked for evidentiary property purposes is put into the system. And finally, number 5, our Decentralized Automated Booking Information System, or what we call DABIS. This is our ability to book a body into the county system. It's our ability to get a booking number from LA County. These custom applications were developed by the city's Information Technology Agency over 40 years ago. Because all personnel who maintain the applications have retired, there is no support to modify or fix the applications if they fail. Most of the personnel retired at the same time in 2020 with the city's early retirement incentive program. So we literally are minute by minute hoping that these legacy systems do not fail. There has been an effort to replace our legacy systems, like I said, for over 10 years. However, in the last year, it is finally becoming a reality of replacing our legacy systems with our new RMS, which is the solution to get us off the mainframe. The 5 critical mainframe applications will be removed from production July 1st of this year, 2024, and will become archived databases. Another significant change that is driving our timeline, which Chief McMahon mentioned, is what I mentioned before, the Federal Bureau of Investigation Uniform Crime Reporting National Incident-Based Reporting System. Right now, the way we report statistics to the FBI, and it's been that way since the 1930s, is the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Summary Reporting System. And that data is a very limited data. This was something that was developed by the FBI under the leadership of J. Edgar Hoover to give you a little idea how old that is. Well, the FBI, the new standard is the NIBRS standard. And July 1st of 2020, all the agencies throughout the United States was supposed to be on this new standard. But a lot of agencies could not develop an RMS and get on RMS, so the FBI has allowed agencies for a temporary period to continue to report the SRS data for statistical purposes until they can get on NIBRS. NIBR's data is much more rich, more data ingestion, and it will give agencies across the United States the ability to do more crime analysis. Here at LAPD, we're almost at the standard for how we do crime analysis. But if you think about 18,000 small police departments across the United States, most don't have a robust crime analysis. NIBR's was the FBI solution to do that, to make sure agencies are pulling in more data so that crime analysis can be done, and that is the standard. The cyber certification, which is the California version of NIBR's, so California added a layer onto the national standard. That will be the standard that we have here at LAPD. We will begin to get cyber's certification once all of the divisions get on board and we start reporting data for 3 months with less than 3% error rate. Once we do that, we can become a cyber's certified agency. So this is where we're going. A modernized, mobility-first records management system. Chief Moore challenged our vendor and the RMS team to roll out the first phase and go live at the beginning of 2024, which is an aggressive timeline. However, Chief Moore understood what was at stake with our current legacy systems and the necessity for LAPD to achieve compliance with the FBI's UCR NIBR standard for reporting crime statistics. We're about 60 days behind that original goal that Chief Moore set back in October of 2022. However, RMS will begin its rollout this Thursday, March 7th, and I call this RMS 1.0 because this is not a one-and-done computer software solution. Although we've spent thousands of hours completing discovery on our business processes, working with SMEs from all over the organization, and the vendor provisioning the system as closely as possible to meet our current business processes, there will be gaps discovered that will continuously be addressed through updates. A non-technical example, because I'm not an IT professional by trade, so in my mind, this is a non-technical example that puts into perspective for me. We all have smartphones, and even though we get our brand new smartphone out of the box, we have to update the operating system from the time it was shipped from the factory to the time we received it. We all know the updates have been released over the years. I had an iPhone once upon a time. I had version 1.0, and now iPhone's version 17.3.1. We all get the application updates every day on our phones, where we have to update the applications to fix bugs and to provide updates. This is no different than our software that we're going to have here for RMS. There's going to be gaps. We're going to find those gaps. We're going to do the updates. We're going to do upgrades. We're going to fix bugs. So this is not a one and done. And I want to make sure that's clear for all of you and for all the men and women of the police department. What they're going to see on Thursday is not the end. It's just the beginning. So in January, to prepare for this rollout, we began training over 400 ambassadors. These ambassadors are personnel from throughout the department who were provided with train the trainer training on the RMS so they could provide training to their respective commands. Operations Central Bureau ambassadors and RMS cadre team members completed the training for Central Bureau personnel this past week, and they will go live in Central Bureau this Thursday, March 7th. Operations West Bureau began their training this week, and they will go live on March 29th. This 3-week phase training cycle will repeat for Operations South Bureau, Operations Valley Bureau, Specialized Commands, until all department entities are live on RMS on May 9th, 2024. As this phase rollout occurs, the RMS team and our vendor will provide 24/7 support. ITB has created an RMS Operations Center for support here at PHF on the 8th floor that will have project managers, engineers, and support staff to address issues as they come up. And our vendor is flying out support personnel this week specifically for the go live of Operations Central Bureau. and will continue to do so as we roll out the other bureaus. So we'll have plenty of support. We'll also have boots on the ground at every division when they go live, in the roll calls, out to the cars to help them log on, to make sure they have everything they need to answer questions. We'll actually have physical people out there also. With all of this said, we have prepared as we can for this first step in our RMS journey. I would also like to point out some positive aspects of having an RMS other than getting off the mainframe. It will be a significant change and improvement to LAPD operations. The RMS mobile services allow officers and staff to work anywhere on any device, including PCs, smartphones, and tablets, removing paper and becoming more efficient. Crime reports, field interview cards, citations will electronically and digitally in the field or in the station can be uploaded to the system. Supervisors and detectives will work with digital records through a digital workflow. There will be a significant reduction of personnel hours on making photocopies of paper reports, distributing these reports, scanning the reports, and retaining and storing the records. And officers will save administrative time and reduce multiple duplicate entries on multiple forms, which they must complete with our current paper process. When the officer's on the current paper, you gotta enter the name of the suspect multiple times, their information multiple times. With the RMS, enter it once, all the other forms are automatically filled out. Lastly, before I ask Captain O'Connor to speak about the impacts of RMS on the CompStat process, I would like to speak about the evolution of technology and the capabilities of the RMS crime analysis. This week, Chief Hamilton, Chief of Detectives, sent out a Department Operations Center notice to all department personnel, articulating quite well the coming improved changes with CompStat, but also the short-term challenges that we're going to face with the RMS system. We currently use our crime analysis mapping system, or what we call CAMS, to conduct crime analysis. This system, again, is outdated and unsupported, which is connected to the legacy systems we are decommissioning. So once we get it with RMS, CAMS will be out of date and will no longer be functional. The first step to go live in the RMS production environment and to begin to enter data in the environment in order to begin the analysis of the data. Right now, our production environment of RMS, there's no data in it because we haven't gone live. We can't put test data on it. All data that goes into the environment is audited. You can't delete it for legal purposes. Once the data's in there, it's in there. So once we start getting data in there with Operations Central Bureau and we get more and more data, that's when we're going to be able to do some crime analysis and pull that stuff out. In the short term, we will start with dashboards and tools within the RMS system and the ability to create custom dashboards based upon the needs of the future. But there is much more data, as I said before, with NIBRS compared to the current summary reporting system, and we will be able to do more robust crime analysis in the future with that data. What is most promising is a vendor that was approved as part of the organized retail theft grant awarded by the state as a data integrator that brings data from many different sources into one screen. So this vendor is going to be able to archive all of our historic data, bring that all together with our current new data into one screen, and we'll be able to have all that data at our fingertips to be able to do crime analysis. The Public Safety Committee approved acceptance of the grant last week, and it will be moving to full council for approval. The vendor will provide the department with the ability to, what I'm calling, revitalize crime analysis and provide real-time data to department personnel. This will provide CompStat with many more tools than we have today in the future. I'm now going to turn this over to Captain Brian O'Connor from CompStat to speak about the short-term and long-term impacts RMS will have on CompStat.
Thank you, Commander.
Thank you, Commander. Good morning. Like Commander Goddard, we're also very excited about the rollout of this RMS and transition to NIBRS. Looking forward to many good things. I'm Captain Brian O'Connor, Commanding Officer of CompStat Division. Thank you for the opportunity to present here today. I'd like to just give a little bit of brief background on CompStat and the department's CompStat procedures before discussing the impact of the transition. CompStat is a multifaceted system the department uses for managing police operations. It's a problem-solving model focusing on accountability, and the goal is to help department personnel proactively engage with the community while reducing crime and not just reacting to it. Some of the key CompStat functions that my team performs: we have weekly crime briefings with senior department command staff, including the chief of police, weekly CompStat information sharing meetings with area commands, and we provide statistical data and management information to department personnel. We also, a key function is we ensure the integrity of department crime data. That's within my shop. Moving on to the impacts of the RMS and NIBRS transition on CompStat. The adoption of the NIBRS standard, as Commander Goddard noted, which focuses on the number of incidents rather than the number of victims, is a fundamental shift in data reporting for the department. The department's intent is to initially convert the NIBRS data to our SRS summary data so that we can compare specifically for the years 2023 and 2022 and before. The goal of that is so that we can maintain consistent tracking over those years. Eventually, we're going to have enough data within the NIBRS system that we're going to be able to compare year over year using solely the NIBRS data. So we have that plan in place. We do anticipate some short-term challenges, like Commander Goddard noted, specifically with the extraction and mapping of data, because as Commander Goddard noted, in the beginning, there will not be a significant portion of data within the system. However, we are preparing for that that's as we speak. Some statistical reports historically produced by Information Technology Bureau and CompStat Division will undergo significant modifications, and some will no longer be produced. Specifically, reports depicting year-to-year comparisons of crime data will not be immediately available. However, work is underway to create these important reports using RMS data. Additionally, the department is using this opportunity to review all of its internal crime data reporting to ensure that all of it is efficient and that all of it has value. So moving on to some of our efforts, and at this point, I'd like to, like Commander Goddard, thank my team. They have an incredibly busy job preparing all of this information for the department, and they've taken on this challenge quite well. We have a collaborative effort right now to address these short-term challenges. Daily working group meetings with ITB, CompStat, and RMS vendor to develop tools to ensure crime data can be retrieved and mapped once the RMS transition takes place. We're also conducting bi-weekly meetings with all of our department crime analysts, all 63 of them, to make sure that they have the information they need to proceed and that we're there to answer their questions and ensure that the transition is as smooth as possible. CompStat has met virtually with several large peer agencies, including the NYPD, which transitioned to NIBRS but did not transition to RMS to get their perspective, as well as the Philadelphia Police Department, which within the last 2 years switched over from a system similar to ours to NIBRS and RMS. Both of those meetings have been very beneficial to my team and myself to understand what we're up against and the best practices we can use to move forward. And in conclusion, just despite these short-term challenges, I'd just like to reassure the Commission that area bureau commands will continue to have daily crime control meetings during the RMS transition. Weekly CompStat accountability meetings will continue uninterrupted throughout the transition process to ensure the department maintains its focus on the effective use of crime data. It is anticipated that the transition to RMS will result in improved direct access to timely crime information, specifically for non-crime analyst personnel, as Commander Goddard noted, and the department crime analysts will have access to new tools that will allow them to continue the excellent work that they've always done, but using new and advanced tools that we believe will help them greatly, including the additional vendor that Commander Goddard noted that we have been talking to. Lastly, the department is determined to continue its critical focus using crime data to maximize effectiveness, strengthen community trust, and maintain its position on the leading edge of modern crime analysis. And with that, I thank you again and open to any questions the Commission may have.
Thank you, Captain, Commander, and Chief. First, I want, on behalf of the Commission, to thank you and all your personnel for all the hard work that's gone into this. I can't imagine how much it took in the way of hours, but when I hear things like a mainframe that's half a century old and a system that's of reporting that when J. Edgar Hoover was director of the FBI, that certainly gets our attention. I'm glad we're going to move into the 21st century. And Commander Goddard, you made me think of a quote by Winston Churchill when he said, "It's not the end, it's not the beginning of the end, but it is the end of the beginning." So with that, I will yield to my colleagues and go to Vice President Shields for any questions or comments she may have.
Thank you, and really thank you for really putting it in perspective of how huge of an undertaking this is, and really the human change management that's involved, not only in just changing technology, but getting the entire department of this size all on board. So thank you all for your great work here. And just a couple of clarifying questions. One, for the new RMS system, is that intended to eventually replace all of the legacy system, the 5 legacy systems that you identified?
Madam Vice President, that is correct.
That's terrific to hear, and you also answered one of my other questions of how long we think this will all take, and I was very shocked to hear May 2024. So that's terrific that we're able to move in that speed, and thank you for being thoughtful about not flipping the switch entirely, but trying to do it in a methodical manner that will help identify the gaps as we go. And thank you also for talking to other agencies to learn from their mistakes and the good things that they've done, so that we hopefully will be on that higher end scale. So really tremendous job, and thank you for the significant undertaking.
Thank you, Vice President Shields. Commissioner Briggs.
Thank you, President Suthers. Commander Goddard, good to see you again. I remember when you first brought this to the commission, I believe it was last year, and we had a discussion about it. At that time, I think one of the issues that we were concerned with was the actual integration, understanding the rollout. The rollout being, if you roll it out in South Division first, we've got West Division, Central, have all the other divisions. How are they going to communicate with one another? Wasn't that one of the issues that we determined was a concern? And if it is it still a concern, or have you now come up with a workaround?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Briggs. There is a tool that is able to take the NIBRS data, which is much more robust, and bring that down to the SRS. So convert that down to the SRS data so that divisions that are still on the SRS can be compared to, to divisions that are now on NIBRS. Same thing when we look at the organization as a whole. I was having this conversation this morning with Chief McMahon. You know, we're in the first quarter, the end of first quarter, 2024. We're still reporting our data to Cal DOJ under the SRS, right? But pretty soon, in 2 days, we're going to start reporting some NIBRS data. Well, Cal DOJ is able to take that NIBRS data, convert that down to SRS. You can't go up. You convert it down. So all of 2024, they're going to look at SRS data because you can't look at 2 data sets. Come the end of 2024, God willing, we'll all be certified. And then we'll start 2025 with all commands reporting NIBRS data to Cal DOJ. And then we'll have a tool that will be able to look at 2025 data to 2024 and historic by bringing the NIBRS data that we'll have in 2025, converting it down to SRS and doing year-to-year comparisons. However, eventually, as we move along, that will be less and less necessary. We'll be fully engaged, as will the country, on the NIBRS, and SRS will be something of history.
Commissioner, may I just add? In many of the other organizations that are way ahead of us on this, there was a great deal of effort that was put into place to educate the community, to educate the media. Ultimately, when this gets in place, it's going to appear that we're reporting slightly more crimes, but there's a significant difference that is something that we cannot talk about enough, that everybody cannot have a good enough understanding, is that the NIBRS reporting system is a far more detailed reporting mechanism. Historically, when we reported the historical SRS data, it was a hierarchy. We'd only report the highest crime, i.e. if it was a murder, we would report the murder and only the murder. There was no reports of any underlying crimes that might have been committed in association with that murder. So we will be reporting crimes that historically we would not have otherwise reported. So we will ensure that we have a great effort in educating the community, educating the media, what those subtle differences are. Fortunately, what we're looking at is that every police department that we've spoken with has been very successful in making that education. The shockingly almost the differences have been marginal. I asked Captain O'Connor to look at some of the differences, and pretty much the differences is 2% at best. In terms of some of those distinctions, I think that really help with the moving forward. But there will be crimes that have been reported that historically we've not reported on before. But most importantly, if there's no other questions, I would like to leave this commission with one parting thought. In looking at some of the reviews from the folks that have gone through training, Commander Goddard expressed some of the things we went through to ensure successful change management. We've had a rather robust marketing campaign announcing everybody that this is coming. It's been a topic of regular direct reports meetings with the chief of police, senior staff meetings, and the general staff over the past year. There's been a website, a SharePoint site that answers all the Q&As and things that come up. The training cadre has an ongoing communications channel that every time somebody has a question about a particular aspect of this system, everybody in that cadre gets a real-time alert and that question is answered in real time. I say all that to express the importance of getting all the things we've done to try and get adoption to where it needs to be. But as Commissioner Shields mentioned, this is a huge human change management. Looking at the reviews of the training, some people absolutely love it. Some people will say, you know what, we can see the promise of this. It's not quite there yet, but they don't identify what's not quite there yet. Other people say this is a half-baked system. I can't believe we're doing this. You are all gonna, as you well know, we're gonna get people that express gratitude and promise, but you're also going to get the people that just don't want to change. And I ask for your patience. We'll be a complete open book. We have a SharePoint site that answers any and all questions. But most importantly, we are not the first police department to go through this. This is something we have to do for two reasons. Number one, we have to report crime in this fashion, but most importantly, we have to get off these legacy systems. We have no choice. Rolling out this RMS would be a difficult enough challenge in and of itself. We now throw in a new reporting requirement that is far more detailed, far more comprehensive. Initially, until the officers get used to the software, it's going to take them a little longer to answer all these questions that they've never had to answer before. But it's very structured. It puts all the information that what used to be in a narrative that used to have to be pulled out by folks like Comstat to do crime analysis is now put into structured data fields, and crime analysis moving forward will be far more robust, far more accurate, and we'll be able to report to the community in far more detail what's really going on.
Chief, I really appreciate that explanation and also the forewarning that requires us to get out and market to members of the public that there's going to appear to be an increase in crime when in reality there will not be. But thank you for that.
Correct.
No further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Briggs. Commissioner Calanche.
Oh, questions were answered. Thank you. I appreciate, your presentation and the update.
Commissioner Suthers, actually have a clarifying question just for me. So the SRS data, so today's March 5th, so next Tuesday, the 12th, when Central Bureaus go live, happens on the 7th, but we'll have data for a few days. The crime data that's presented publicly can be SRS data for Central Bureau. We will be able to have comparative data. That's where I'm confused on your explanation.
Yeah, so you can take the new NIBRS data set and you can downgrade that to SRS. So for 2024, that will be the way we will do things, especially that's how DOJ will do things. So that crime that is presented should be all across the board in SRS, so you don't have some divisions reporting NIBRS, some division SRS.
So there will be no gap in presenting crime data publicly.
There will be no gap. We will have the ability to look at what crimes are occurring and have a conversion tool to be able to present that information.
Okay, great, thank you. And Chief McMahon,
Yeah,
thank you for putting a fine point on the human aspect of this, but rest assured that you have my full support and we will move this forward, so.
Yeah, and Chief, hopefully you don't mind me sharing out loud, but, I walked into the chief's office late last night. I said, I couldn't think of a more challenging time to be doing such a huge rollout. And his answer to me was, sometimes change is tough. There's never a good time to do this, but this is something we got to get done. So Chief, let me publicly thank you for that support. It's going to be needed. And one of the things that my folks will definitely ensure that you're equipped with is to be able to, and this goes for everybody on this commission and any department leader, is to make sure that they've got the tools in place to adequately explain to those who struggle to understand or want to know more deeply, is the ability to communicate that side-by-side comparison, what the old SRS data would look like and how it changes with the new NIBRS reporting format. So one of the things we've learned through other people's mistakes is the importance of equipping people with the ability to do those side-by-side comparisons, and we'll ensure that you all have that.
Chief, Commander, Captain, thank you very much for your report. We look forward to the rollout. Thank you. We'll move on to regular agenda item 4B, which is the department's report relative to the 40 millimeter less lethal launcher, top 5 agency comparison. Captain, good morning. Thank you, sir. I believe I was the author of this request. So I'll start with, first of all, thank you for doing this analysis, reaching out to New York, Chicago, the Sheriff's Department, Philadelphia, and Houston. The one point that was missed, unfortunately, in doing this is I wanted to know if two things. Number one, part of my request was to determine when we use the 40, how often percentage-wise we have to resort to lethal force because the 40 was deemed ineffective. Unless you have that answer, because I did want to see if I could get that data point.
I do have that answer. So I could speak to 2023, we had 34 officer-involved shootings, and of those 34 officer-involved shootings, we had 8 instances in which the 40 millimeter less lethal launcher was fired within those incidents. So of the 34, we had 8 instances where we attempted to de-escalate by way of the 40 millimeter. It was unsuccessful and it resulted in an officer-involved shooting. The numbers for 2022 is we had 31 officer-involved shootings, and of those 31 officer-involved shootings, we had 4 instances in which we also utilized the 40 millimeter less lethal launcher. Does that hit the mark or answer the question?
It does. It does. Mm-hmm.
That would take a deeper analysis into those 8 instances in 2023 and the 4 instances in 2022, and we can get that. That would take a deeper dive into the actual investigations.
Captain, my second question is, during the research effort, did we ask NYPD, Chicago, or Philadelphia why they've decided not to use the 40 millimeter less lethal launcher?
We didn't inquire into the reasons why they are not deploying them.
I think, again, due to their size, and I would imagine it's certainly not cost prohibitive, it is noteworthy that those agencies are not using it. I would imagine since it is available and they know we are using it, it'd be interesting to find out what their reasons are for not considering testing or using this device as a less lethal, because they have the same challenges we do, and I'm just curious about why they decided not to.
We can certainly follow up with those agencies and see what kind of information we could get. With regards to the numbers of 40 millimeter less lethal launchers deployed throughout the country, as we researched this question specifically to the defense technology brand model, in the last 2 years, we did discover, however, that there were 7,000 launchers that are deployed throughout the country among 900 agencies, and that's in the last 2-year time period. If we go beyond that into the last 8 years, it's approximately 20,000 total launchers that are spread out between 2,000 and 2,500 agencies across the country.
Thank you. I'll go to Commissioner Kalanche. Any questions or comments?
No, I actually had the same question. What was wondering why these other departments weren't using it as a tool. Yeah. So would love to hear what we find out. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Briggs?
I think Chief Choi dove into the question that was my concern, which was, and partially you asked it too, President Southers, which is the simultaneous discharge of the 40 millimeter and deadly force at the same time.
We'll at CIRD we'll dig into that and look at those 12 incidents over the last 2 years to get the timing to answer that question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Briggs. Thank you, Commissioner Briggs. Vice President Shields?
Yes, now I feel like I'm just piling on since there's going to be some additional updates, I think one additional thing I would like to understand, particularly for the departments that do use it, for example, Houston, and I believe the Sheriff's Department, is also understanding how their policies set out when they can use it versus the use of deadly force, because I think we have talked about that before, where the question is there enough time for them to use the intermediate force before having to escalate to deadly use of force? Is there enough time given to officers, or is it, so quickly that, something goes from an immediate threat to an imminent threat that there isn't enough time for officers to use a more intermediate threat? So understanding how their policies lay out their specific guidance as to when these other departments, the Sheriff's Department and also Houston, when they say officers can deploy the 40 millimeter.
Right, and we reached out to the Sheriff's Department, and we do have their policy as well as Houston Police Department, and their policies with regards to when they can use the 40 millimeter or the intermediate force options are almost in lockstep and mirror the Los Angeles Police Departments. And I think when we speak to at least the state of California, there's a reason for that, because the law really dictates when we can use those intermediate force options, and proportionality speaks to the type of tool that we can utilize in response to the threat that the officers face.
Okay, thank you. And that helps answer that question, because I do think it's just helpful to know whether we are being consistent with others and what dictates that, which is understandably the law. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief, any questions? Okay, great. So with that, Captain, so we've given you some additional actions and research. We're going to defer on recommending for board action approving the report, and we'll have you back with that information.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item agenda 4C, Department's report relative to the confidential financial disclosure audit. I've got Police Administrator Sargent and Captain Guardado. And Lieutenant, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Sergeant, how are you?
Good morning, everyone.
You have the floor.
Sharon Sargent, Commanding Officer of Audit Division. Today I have with me Lieutenant Mark Guardado. He's going to be presenting a brief overview of the confidential financial disclosure audit. This was part of our 2023 annual audit plan. And I also have with me Sergeant Eugene Bedoya, also from Audit Division, in case there's any questions after.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Chief, Inspector General. The confidential financial disclosure audit was conducted by Audit Division with the purpose of determining whether or not the department followed policies and procedures with respect to timely submission of financial disclosure documents, or CFDs, their completeness and required approval, and safekeeping and destruction of forms. This audit covered 4 objectives. While the department performed well in objectives 3 and 4 with compliance rates of 100% respectively, the department's compliance rate in objective 1 was 87%, which dealt with the selected employee's timely submission of a CFD report to the financial disclosure coordinator prior to their assignment to the specialized unit. The department's compliance rate in objective 2 was 94%, which dealt with the accuracy and approval of CFD documents. Audit Division did meet with the audit entities who are in general agreement with all the audit findings. What we discovered performing this audit was that the common denominator in the findings with relation to objectives 1 and 2 was procedure. Currently, the communication for submitting and reviewing the CFD reports is kept between the financial disclosure coordinator and the concerned officer. And most times, it's via email. As this process definitely mitigates the exposure of confidential and/or sensitive information, it also leaves it vulnerable to administrative errors. There's always that chance of a disconnect between the two parties when one officer may be on vacation, days off, etc., in between communications. There have been immediate steps to address this issue that have been taken. Gang and Narcotics Division has implemented a level of oversight, assigning personnel to oversee the application process on their end. The Office of Operations has disseminated reminders to commands regarding the policy and the requirement to adhere to it. And the Financial Disclosure Coordinator has upgraded the database to improve tracking of applications and submission deadlines. Lastly, we continue to collaborate with entities to ascertain the best practice moving forward. Thank you, and at this time, we avail ourselves for any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Any questions or comments, Vice President Shields?
I had a question as to how frequently do they need to renew their application?
Every 2 years.
And is that really just targeted? So if someone started in June, it would be 2 years from that June, or is there any way to normalize it so that it's like the beginning of the year? Everyone does this. 'Cause I'm concerned that the harder thing is the tracking of it. From looking at the audit, it doesn't appear that anyone's trying to circumvent any of the rules of financial disclosure. It's just a very hard thing to remember. July in 2 years, I need to fill out another form without that prompting. So is there a way to simplify this process to ensure compliance?
As far as the time frame you mentioned, we can't really keep it to a certain month or a certain period of the year because these positions are filled when vacancies become available and they're advertised. So it depends when the person leaves and the officer vacates that position, then the position is advertised, and then there's interviews, and then an officer may be selected. So it's whenever the vacancy becomes available. It can be any time throughout the year.
The selections are rolling throughout the year.
And I think I'll direct this to the chief, that this might be an area to just look into in terms of policy changes to help simplify, because it seems like we're spending a lot more time just trying to track this information than to actually keep and have officers fill this out. I think everyone's willing to fill it out. It's just trying to help streamline that process.
Thank you for that question. So I think when somebody initially enters a unit that requires this disclosure, all the steps that they're talking about putting into place are going to be effective. However, like you mentioned, 2 years into it, who's to remind the officer or their supervisors that this needs to be renewed, especially when there's no calendar date? It varies throughout the 2 years, correct? We have supervisory action items in our team system that reminds all of us when a rating is due or when somebody reaches a use of force threshold, complaint threshold, where a supervisor needs to take action. I would direct this department look into putting a financial disclosure supervisory action item in those people in those particular jobs. So 60 days, 100 days before that 2-year mark, a supervisor gets a notification, or the officer gets a notification, and it has to be done by a certain date. And if it's, if it gets to that 30-day mark, another alert is done. I realize that our Teams 2 system is kind of antiquated and support is not there, but I think there's a way to do that. There's a way to massage that. So I'll ask the department to look into that as well.
Thank you, Chief. And I do think just automating the process will be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, great. With that, I would move that we approve the recommendation for board action for item 4C, the confidential financial disclosure audit. Is there a second?
I second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
The commission will now move into closed session and recess to the.
The Board of Police
Thank you.
Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item numbers 5A, 1, 2, 3, and 5B according to Government Code 54957.
The commission is back and has concluded closed session, and we will have a report out by the Executive Director, Mr. T. Fank.
Regarding item 5A1, tactical unintentional discharge number 015-23, the commission on a 4-0 vote adopted the recommendations of the chief of police, which were tactics, administrative disapproval, 1 police officer, 2, drawing and exhibiting in policy, 1 police officer, 2, unintentional discharge, administrative disapproval, negligent discharge, 1 police officer, 2. Item 5A2, non-tactical unintentional discharge number 016-23. Commission on a 4-0 vote adopted the recommendations of the chief of police, which were tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer, 3, unintentional discharge, administrative disapproval, negligent discharge, 1 police officer, 3. Item 5A3, non-tactical unintentional discharge number 024-23. Commission on a 4-0 vote adopted the recommendations of the chief of police, which were tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer, 3. Unintentional discharge, administrative disapproval, negligent discharge, 1 police officer, 3. As it relates to item 5B1, discussed. That concludes the report out.
Thank you, Mr. T. And with that, I'll move that we adjourn today. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.